Okay, we are live on Instagram and on YouTube. So pick your platform, whichever one you'd prefer to watch me streaming live. Today is an exciting day. I've been wanting to go live all day because this message has wanted to come through. Today, we're going to be talking about upgrade 4 shifts to attract more abundance and love in your life. And what I mean by that is 4 mindset shifts, a 4 step process that I use in order to elevate to a new identity. Last week, we talked about quantum leaps. If you didn't catch that video, go check it out on my YouTube. We just discussed the whole process of what it takes to have a quantum leap, what happens when they call it the quantum crumble or quantum reorganization. And so this week, I wanted to focus on elevating to this new identity or upgrading your identity to a wealth identity. So, wealth is a mindset, wealth is a decision. So, abundance, prosperity. It took me many, many years to figure that out. But I finally, I believe, arrived at it, or I think it's like yoga where it's more of a practice, right? So anyway, just drop a comment below if you're here live or if you're watching the replay, just do #replay. I'm going to be answering questions in a little bit, and feel free if you want to come on live with me, just let me know if you have a question, drop them in the chat as I'm talking, and we're going to dive in. So, part of having an identity upgrade or a shift in your wealth identity. Let's take a step back first. Let's talk about desire first. First of all, if you even have a desire in your heart or your soul for more, it's planted there for a reason. It is literally source, God, universe guiding you to your blueprint, your North Star. I believe our desires are our North Stars if we allow ourselves to listen to them. I know a lot of times we fall into a pattern of not trusting ourselves or believing that we could F it up or make a mistake. And I get it because of past experiences or past states of consciousness or states of being that we were in, that also can create this state of not trusting ourselves. But if you have a desire, it is God slash universe slash source slash your inner beings nudge to move you in the direction. Hey everyone, yay! I'm seeing all the comments popping in. What's up? So first of all, it's important to understand that desire is super important for you to listen to. And if you are someone that has struggled with trusting yourself, then there may be a little bit of a journey that you'll go on to start to rest in it's safe to allow my desires to come through, right? That's not necessarily going to happen overnight, but at least if you start with a willingness. This is something I always love to share with clients and students where if you don't have confidence in an area, that's okay. You don't actually need confidence to take action. You could absolutely get more into curiosity, right? If you're feeling lack of confidence, get curious. Start to flirt with the idea of what could it be like? What if I had a willingness to do this thing? Right? And you can borrow confidence too. In fact, I feel like if you see someone who is perceiving to you as confident, just first and foremost, know that you could only see them because they're a reflection and a mirror of some aspect of you. Usually it's something that we've denied or repressed in ourselves. So if you're actually observing someone or something, doing something that you are perceiving as confident, do know that you have it within you. You could not physically, by the laws of the universe, observe someone that doesn't have what is within you, because in spiritual truth, everything is a reflection or a projection of us anyway. However, do know that you can borrow people's confidence in the sense of start to study their habits, their behaviors. Part of what I'm going to talk about, the 4 steps of having an identity upgrade or a shift in how you're seeing yourself, is that you're going to adopt new behavior patterns. Just so you guys know, I've got Instagram live here and YouTube here. So pick your platform of whichever one you'd like to tune in live and ask questions. I'm going to be pulling someone on live if you'd like later, but I'll also be answering questions below too. And I'll be sure to check the chat as we go. So understanding that, let's identify what identity is. So your identity or your self-concept is how you perceive yourself. It's the thoughts, the words, the habits, the belief systems that you've adopted that have shaped your personality. And I love this quote by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, your personal reality is a reflection of your personality, the thoughts, words, habits, beliefs that you've adopted. If you ever want to shift your personal reality, be willing to shift your personality. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is the personality is also the self concept, the way you perceive yourself. I have this quote that I share with people. You don't actually rise to the level of your dreams and desires. You will always rest to the level of your self-image or your identity. That's going to be your set point. So even though you might have desires and dreams that are expanded beyond that, this is a call for you and I to expand, to do things differently. The same habits, behaviors, and actions you took to get you to this state in your life is not necessarily going to be the same actions you take to get to your next level. So you want to be willing to shift and change. So your identity is something that's very malleable. You can change that. And so there's ways, and I see we got questions here. Let's see. Sammy says, how do you get into your wealth frequency? What's your practice? Ooh, I'm so glad you asked, Sammy. I have a practice. It's gonna be 4 steps to help me get into wealth frequency that I'm gonna share here in a little bit. So stay tuned. And then I'll share another amazing life hack to drop me into wealth and abundance. I had this awakening last year. I call it my God spark moment. And it showed me where in my life I was holding on to lack and scarcity and how I was able to move into abundance. Now, this is again a practice. It's not saying like it was just an overnight thing. And I still, even today, Kellyanne is online right now live. I was in her coaching program today, and she was mentoring us, and I was sharing, man, I can see where the lack and scarcity is coming up. But the gift in when you start to rise and elevate to your wealth identity, you start to become very aware of where lack and scarcity is showing up. So it'll start to sound alarms for you. But Sammy, I'm going to share a couple of really cool hacks in a few minutes on how to get into a wealth frequency. And I actually started a daily practice doing that because I noticed there was so much lack and scarcity that's where my neural net was wired to because of the state of consciousness I was in. The state of being or the frequency that I was in. All right. So your health, your relationships, your wealth will never exceed how you see yourself or how you feel about yourself until you make a conscious decision to elevate that. Now, there are 4 ways that you can create change in your life. I'm an NLP master practitioner. I help people create quantum leap breakthroughs in their life. I have a whole program and actually Sammy went through the full breakthrough immersion. But here's the deal with how you can create change in your life. So there are 4 layers. You could take action to change your behavior. Tony Robbins talks a lot about this. And actually, action is required. That's 1 layer or level in order to create change. You could take a bunch of action, and as you take uncomfortable action, it'll start to shape your neural pathways into, oh, I'm the type of person that does this. Like, for example, if you want to start going to the gym again, and maybe it's been a while, you don't identify or have an identity as someone who is a person who works out all the time. If you take enough action and you go to the gym every day, eventually you'll develop the habit or the belief that you are someone that goes to the gym. You could take a bunch of action. Another way that you could go about doing it is you can shift your emotional state. You could consciously choose to feel differently in a moment, in any given moment. You could put on some music, you could do some self-care. That's going to help you shift your emotional state, which then causes you to take different action. At a deeper level or layer to that is you can shift your thoughts and beliefs. That's a more fundamental way to create massive change. And when I do NLP breakthroughs, I work both at the level of thought and emotion, right? So you can change your thoughts and beliefs. When you change core beliefs, that's going to cause different emotions, how you feel. That then is going to cause you to take different actions, right? So you can see there's layers of how you can create change. If you want a quicker way, a swifter way, a simpler way to create massive change in your life, go to the deepest level and decide to shift your identity. to elevate your identity, to start your self-concept, your um, how you see yourself, how you perceive yourself, or as Dr. Joe says, your personality, the thoughts, words, habits, right? All of that's mixed in. But when you start to see yourself in a different light, you're going to think differently, feel differently, and speak differently. Quite literally, you're going to be in a different frequency. And this takes practice. You'll be in a different frequency, but you're going to have access to new thoughts, beliefs, emotional states, because everything's frequency, right? So, why we are talking about wealth identity is because if you just start at that level and you make a conscious choice to elevate to the wealth and prosperity of the version of you that's been calling forth to you, shit, because you know it, you've had desires in your heart and soul that have been calling you forth. That's even why we're having this conversation right now. So, what you're going to do is a couple steps. But I want you to understand before we dive into the four mindset shifts to attract more abundance and love, I want you to really contemplate this. The purpose of why we are here as souls, our main purpose is to remember who we are, to wake up to the truth that we are the one, an aspect of God, the universe, source, to remember who we are. We came here and we forget so that we can have an experience and remember. So I want you to keep that in mind. And those are spiritual ascension principles and awakening principles that if you're on that path, like myself and a lot of my friends and soul family, you realize like that is the coming into your power when you realize that you are the one. And I have a whole program called The One, the identity upgrade. If you're interested in learning how to update and elevate your identity rapidly, then talk to me or reach out, DM me, because I have a whole program on this. But I want you to remember the purpose of being here is to remember who you are, to expand, to grow as consciousness. Okay. That being said, here are some things that will get in the way or block you. Actually, let's do this. I'm going to share the 4 steps. We'll dive into that. And then I'll share a couple things that could block you from stepping fully into your wealth identity. So, step 1, in order to elevate your identity to wealth, attract more abundance and love into your life. Because, by the way, abundance, prosperity, it's not just financial. Right? Who here, drop a comment below, who here knows if you've ever been sick or something's happened to you or a loved one, you know that wealth, true wealth is our health, right? So wealth, prosperity, abundance, we're not just talking about money, although money is a huge ascension tool or awakening tool for our souls to grow and help us remember who we are. Actually, money is a fantastic spiritual growth and personal growth tool. I know it's very challenging. It has been for me in various aspects of my life. It's debilitating in some states of consciousness. There's a lot of shadow frequency to it as well, but there's also gifts or blessings and higher levels of awareness that money can help us, can invite us to, if we're willing to accept the invitation and heal our shadows, surrender the lack and scarcity that consumes us, release the blocks, come into love and acceptance with who we are, heal ancestral lineage and trauma patterns from our ancestors. Like there's a lot to this. That's for a different live stream. I'll do that pretty soon. But anyway, step 1 to elevating yourself to a wealth identity is you must first decide what your wealth identity looks like. Really get clear on what that is and choose who you want to be. And I've done this and I walk my clients through this, get out a piece of paper and a pen or type this up, write out, what does that look like for you? What does that feel like? Kellyanne says, I love that. Accept the invitation from wealth. Yes, it's so good. I know. And it's something I've really been flirting with and playing with a lot these days. Like non-negotiable, right? So step 1, decide, write out the wealthy version of you. And I've got some notes to make sure I cover everything because I wanted to make sure I keep this dialed in as this is a channeled transmission, part of it. However, I want to make sure I stay somewhat on track. Write out the wealthy version of you and really envision, what does he or she look like? What are you doing? How are you speaking? How are you acting? And most importantly, how are you being? It's super important because we are all acting in our movie. You are the main character. You are the one. I talk about this all the time. Um, and it really is part of our purpose, remembering who we are and remembering that you are the one. So, as the one, you are playing different roles in your life. You're showing up just like actors and actresses. Welcome to life. You're the main character, the star of your movie. How do you want to act? I do this amazing process when people work more closely with me in my identity upgrade. It's called the One Identity Upgrade. I actually walk my clients through writing out a character role as if they're their movie of their life. I teach them how to write out a character role down to a T. We even use AI, and it is some magical shit. Clients that I walked through this process 4 weeks later started living into the life that they wrote just 30 days earlier. And I'm talking about one woman got married unexpectedly. She was in a beloved relationship. She was not expecting to get married. She lost her job serendipitously and started an incredible real estate company in which less than a year later, she's already had. She actually, she just tested out and got her certification 2 months ago and made her first sale like within a few weeks, all because she wrote it in to this. So it starts with deciding and write out the character description of how that version of you is acting, speaking, being in your movie. Okay. Step two, declare it daily. You're going to need to reprogram your mind and really remind yourself. And this doesn't have to be harsh, it's just a gentle remembrance, and yet doing it repetitiously daily so that the ego mind or other lower states of being that pull you out of this new version of you don't take hold of you. You just want to set the day off. When I wake up in the morning, so Sammy, you were asking what are some wealth hacks. Let me see, the question is, how do you get into your wealth frequency? Here's what I do. I declare it each morning. So before I get out of bed, I started a practice last year after I had a huge come to God, come to Jesus around how much lack and scarcity consumed my psyche, at least states of consciousness that I was living in. And so I needed to love the lack and scarcity in my life. I needed to accept it, to walk with it. And actually, Kellyanne, who's on this live stream, she was super instrumental in helping me remember to make the shift into abundance. And so around that time, I decided that as I was declaring this new wealth identity or abundant state of being, I would not get out of bed until I felt abundant. But here is the hack that I used to answer your question. To get into the wealth frequency, I had about 3 or 4 songs that I would put on because music helps me tune and calibrate to higher states of being. So if you're someone that music does that for you, pick about a couple of 2 or 3 songs that when you listen to it, it you're going to listen to it as if God, universe, source is singing it to you. One song I absolutely love is called it's a Christian based song called Oceans. Um, I forget the name of the group who sings it, but if you Google Oceans, I just listen to it as if the divine is singing it to me. Another beautiful song that I love listening to is I Choose You. And I just imagine life, God, universe singing it to me. So, right off the bat, before I even get out of bed, I'm listening to those 2 songs. And that puts me in an elevated state into my wealth identity because remember, I had already decided and I wrote out my character description. I read it. You don't even have to read it daily, although it would benefit you to read it daily to remind you. Because again, when you write something out, type it up and read it, you're creating images in your imagination faculty. That's one of the higher faculties of the mind that Bob Proctor used to talk a lot about. So when you do that, you are creating it. It's an imaging factory or faculty that you are imaging as you're reading. If you want to take it a next step further, something I teach clients to do is create a mind movie, which is like a vision board, but with a full sensory perception of like you're watching a movie, right? You literally take your vision board and you set it to music. You can put affirmations, you could do a voiceover. This makes it real. So I don't get out of bed until I feel abundant and wealthy. As I'm getting out of bed, usually I'm crying because those songs make me cry. But as I'm getting out of bed, I will go into gratitude. So that's the second hack. So I'm going through the 4 steps to help you attract more love and abundance by elevating into a wealth identity. But the second step that answers the question on how to create a wealth frequency daily, I listen to music and then I get into gratitude. Now that I'm in an elevated state, because I crafted my state before I got out of bed, now I'll start going into gratitude. So in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, what I do, a process I do to help people transform rapidly and have quantum leaps within. Usually the process takes about a day to 2 days, and then it's 3 months of integration. But what I'll do, and Tony Robbins talks about this, and I borrowed this from him, it takes 3 things to have a full breakthrough. You need to shift your state, your emotional state, change your story, what you're telling yourself, and shift your strategies or your belief systems or your habits, right? Plan. So when someone works closely with me in any kind of coaching modality or any kind of group or one-on-one, I teach you how to shift those 3 things: change your state, your emotional state rapidly, how to shift your story where you have a new story, which is elevating your identity, right? Which is what I taught you to do in step 1, to decide and write out your story. And then the strategy is the steps that you'll need to take to reinforce the new behavior. Okay. So those are 2 main things that I do to get into an elevated wealth frequency. I also have added breath work into my practice. So I have a 5-minute breath work exercise that I do, which you can absolutely just Google breath work on YouTube. I found literally a 5-minute breath work practice. I've created a consistency around it because that's training me to my level of my wealth identity. Also, part of declaring it, what I did is I wrote out, I have a sticky note right here on what my new identity is. So every day I look at it and I read it. And then I ask myself, what does that version of me, how would that version of me do whatever I'm about to do? How does this version of me, how does the successful CEO version of me show up to live calls? So I plan my day by looking through the lens of this version of me. So that also helps me calibrate to the identity. Okay, so step 1, decide your wealth identity. Step 2, declare it daily. Step 3, well, before I get into step 3, let me see if I have any questions so far. Let's see. Awesome. Let's see. Someone says the role I'm learning to be is my future self. As my future self, I don't have limiting beliefs and I'm passionate in anything I believe in or pursue. I love that. That's beautiful. That's such a great practice that you're choosing to learn. By the way, guys, I'm on Instagram here and on YouTube, so pick your platform. But feel free to drop questions in the chat or comments, and I'll answer it. And if you want to come on live, I'm happy to bring you on live when I'm done going through the steps. If you want to have a chat or if you have a question too. So just let me know in the comments if you want to come on live. Okay, so step 3 is devote. So you're going to want to devote. So showing up as the version of you every single day. Devote to it. Just like I said, I have a devotional where I listen to music and I go into gratitude and then I do breath work. And then I usually, with that practice, I get into a state of giving because when I was shown last year when I was actually asking God and Christ consciousness to just come in and show me what the frequency of overflow is, because I did not have an understanding of what did overflow mean. Back then, I didn't understand what financial overflow meant. I hadn't felt it because I had so much lack and scarcity clouding my vision. And so within 30 minutes, the divine came through and showed me the book. Do you guys remember the book, The Giving Tree? I'm going to do a whole nother live stream on this. But if you remember the book, The Giving Tree, I never read it, but as soon as I was shown a vision of the Giving Tree, I immediately started bawling and I got the codes. I got the energetic frequency. The frequency of overflow is giving. The secret is giving. Because when you are in a state of giving, not from deprivation or depletion, but giving because you can only give what you have. So there is spiritual principle behind this. And I think when you rest in that, you don't give to get, but if you give genuinely because that fills your soul and it fills your heart, that activates the next level of your wealth identity. Which, by the way, I'm going to be doing a challenge here soon, a 40-day challenge. I'm going to be walking people through. So if that's something that interests you, drop a comment below. I'm going to start it October 1st, and it will be all about helping you elevate to your wealth identity. Okay, so but part of this is devoting. And so that means start practicing, act, speak, be, show up as the version of you. Play with this, flirt with this. This is a very, it's not like a fake it till you make it. It's a understanding that you're just tapping in to a version of you that already exists. So now I'm gonna talk to some of my spiritual sisters and brothers here. Those of you who study quantum energetics and understanding quantum jumping, quantum leaping, quantum expansion. Here's the deal. Because we only ever have the now moment, all the sages and spiritual teachers across time, space, and dimension have been teaching us this. Love is all there is. Now is the present moment of your power. There only is ever the moment of now. Because there's this ever expanding moment of now, there are actually infinite versions of you, Instagram and YouTube, that exist simultaneously. It's just a matter of what frequency do you choose to rest in and calibrate to or tune yourself to, just like you would tune a radio station or a dial to a certain frequency or a thermostat to a certain temperature. You can tune your state of being by resting and just choose by deciding and practicing a resting state of the present moment. And you can play with feeling states and all that, but there's infinite possibilities of you. So if you have a desire for an aspect of you or a state, a version of you, a wealthier version of you, or more abundant in love and money and health, it actually exists. She actually exists. He actually exists, because in the quantum field, you can just choose that version of you. And it quite literally is just because, remember, the purpose of life is to remember who you are. You are the one. However long it takes you to realize that, you will keep sending, your consciousness will keep sending you books, billboards, songs, serendipities, angel numbers, whatever sign it freaking needs to send you to remind you that you're the effing one. It'll do it. Because when you remember that you're the one, you can quite literally just decide to choose a state of being or a state of consciousness, a version of you, and start to live into it and act like it and show up to it. Okay. And that takes practice. It takes, yeah, just like you're going to the gym, you're going to strengthen a muscle. I weight train, I lift weights. I actually use resistance to shape my body. It takes practice. I can't just go to the gym once and my muscles are set, right? It's a matter of repetition, allowing yourself to not so much add more to your life, but to let go of old states of being, old consciousness, old thoughts, old environments. Certain people or situations or relationships might need to be transmuted. I talked about this last week. If you caught me live on YouTube and Instagram, and the video lives on Instagram and YouTube right now, you can go back and watch it. Quantum Leap into a New Reality. I talked about that you can rapidly shift when you decide on your wealth identity. You choose it because you know you're the one. You start practicing and acting as if and living into that version of you. Again, this is a you thing. It doesn't require anyone else. It's not about, you can't control anyone else. There's not forcing anyone else to do anything in your reality. It quite literally comes from you choosing, acting, being, and showing up as the version of you that has the thing you want. When you do that, you can quantum leap and collapse time and shift into the version of you. I shared a story last week on how I did that and how as soon as I came into harmony within myself, forgave everyone wherever I had lack and scarcity show up, and literally I got laid off from a position that I was in, and it was unexpected, but it was putting me on my path, and it'll accelerate. So with the quantum leap can come a quantum crumble, or I like to call it a quantum reorganization. Shit in your life is going to seem like it's going effing nuts. It doesn't have to, but it can. And it's okay. You want to give yourself grace as you're rising into this wealth identity. You've got to be willing to let go of old aspects of you, old parts of you, old relationships need to maybe be brought up to speed, have conversations, because Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Because your personal reality is a reflection and a projection of your personality. And if you want to change your personal Reality, you've got to shift your personality, i.e., your identity, your thoughts, words, habits. You have to start relating to a new version of you. Because of that, your environment and the people and your habits and the things you engage in every day can keep you anchored to an old state of being, to an old identity, unless you're willing to have some of those harder conversations if need be, or really come into harmony with yourself of your own choice. When you choose it, other people will choose you. And that's the same for love and relationships too. When you choose you, you'll be chosen by the right people. And so, even as you're going through these quantum leaps or you're rising in your wealth identity, and we'll get into the last step of the four on how to do that, those mindset shifts or those shifts to make in your life that create um, attracting abundance and love at a whole new level. If you're willing to let go of the old aspects of you, it doesn't have to be traumatic or hard. And I always like to say a blessing: God, I give thanks lovingly and gently, shift, reorganize, elevate me, and all involved so that we all can create a peaceful experience. And sometimes it isn't, sometimes it isn't. I've gone through quantum leaps where I've got a divorce. My beloved, another former beloved, asked me to uncouple out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. I got sick AF. Another time, I mean, it's okay, just trust in the process. However, do know that you're fully supported, you're fully safe. You are the one. Life is for you. Everything is unfolding for you. Everything's happening for you. And that may not have been your experience, and that's okay. We can love and forgive ourselves or aspects of us or experiences where that wasn't the case. We can give ourselves grace as we decide and choose in the quantum field the new version of us that is fully supported, that is fully safe, that is abundant AF, that has the life that she craves or he desires, that has the beloved and the lover that is better than imaginable because you became your own beloved and lover, right? So I want to share, I always like to put that little asterisk, that willingness of um, reminding you that there is a reorganization that can happen, and it isn't always rainbows and unicorns, and it can be crazy AF. And shit, I mean, I've had clients freaking, well, myself included, like I go through a quantum leap, boyfriend uncouples, my father dies, and I move to a new city all the same week. It was fucking crazy. And that's where you just have to surrender and love yourself through every step of the way, right? Who here, drop a heart or an emoji or a comment if you've experienced a quantum leap or an identity shift where loss was very much part of your experience. And loss is not a bad thing. It's just the letting go of old aspects of us, and we can love and embrace those parts of us. We can give ourselves just unconditional love and peace when those things happen, when we go through, because on the other side of that is the quantum acceleration. And that's where, as you start to, I'll go over the steps again, but as you start to step into this wealth identity that then starts attracting love and abundance in all forms, not just money, but health, wealth, beloved, love, opportunities. Oh my gosh, that's something I want to share with you guys too. When you start living into the most abundant version of you, the wealthiest, the wealth identity, you've elevated it, you're going to get creative ideas or opportunities that you need to act on, right? It's not just a matter of, oh my God, I just elevated my identity and now the money just poured in my lap, which it absolutely can. Don't discount any way God in the universe wants to expand into you and expand through you. However, abundance comes in the form of opportunities. You might get inspired ideas, even if it seems illogical or it doesn't make sense, or it's like, oh man, but I have this plan. Here's my dream. Here's my desire. Here's my wealth identity. Why am I being called to clean out my closet? Or why am I being called to pursue this business or burn my old business or quit my job or exit out of my relationship because I know it's been soul sucking for both of us. Like, you may not understand why, but do trust that when you ask, it is given. Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith from Agape Church, he says that abundance is life seeking expansion through you, God seeking expansion through you, the universe wanting more, seeking to expand. And so when you allow it, half the battle for us, hashtag human, y'all, like hashtag being human. Half of my battle and half the battle for probably a lot of you is allowing the goodness that wants to come through, giving yourself permission to even desire the thing that you want without having an attachment, which is the last step. So, the last step to make a shift in your life in order to elevate to a new identity and attract more love and abundance is to detach. And here's what I mean by detach from any expectations on how your vision will be realized. Just continue to take inspired action on how your soul is guiding you because you will know that you're in alignment based on how it feels. So, this is part of this process is developing self trust with you again because somewhere along the way you may have lost it. You may have felt so broken, and you're not ever broken. You're just becoming. You're just remembering who the F you are. But in the moments when we feel broken, we can just love those parts of ourselves. We can detach from how it needs to look to get to what we want, but we do get to rest in developing self-trust with us again, even though we felt broken before. We can trust in ourselves. We can trust in life, the divine. If you exist right now, life chose you. It chose you. And I'm pointing at Instagram and YouTube here. It chose you to have an experience, to have God, i.e., the universe, experience itself through you. Of course, you're freaking worthy. Look, worthiness isn't even a topic of conversation. If you exist, you're worthy. That's something I've had to train myself on, and I still have to remind myself. Because when we have gone through either trauma or abuse or psychological warfare and even just the way society has been programming us, which is not a bad thing, not hating on whatever institutional systems that might exist that have old, outdated programming, they're all beautiful aspects of the divine too. We can love those old expressions of thought forms of however they played out, but we can also give rise to a new way of thinking, to a new choice or a decision. And that comes to each of us remembering that we are the one, God and the universe is in us, whatever you align or subscribe most to. It's within you. And as life choosing you, your higher self, the broader perspective of you, living out through you, like you are worthy. Now you've got to allow what wants to come through you. Allow yourself to receive. And receiving is a very feminine, energetic state. There's masculine energy, feminine energy. Masculine is another way to say system, structure, take action, go after, pursue. Feminine is resting, receiving, allowing. Just like yin and yang, sun and moon. We need both. Every human has both energies within them. So the last step is detach. You want to be clear about what you want. And even if you're not clear, rest in a feeling of the wealth identity you're rising to. Decide it, right? We said decide who you are choosing to be. What's your new wealth identity? Declare it daily. Show up, reprogramming your mind as the version of you that already has it. Devote to it every day, showing up, acting, speaking, thinking. And then detach. Realize that you want to start to pay attention to what excites you and what you're drawn to. Right? You want to stay open to new opportunities to wealth. That can come in ideas. It can come in inspired nudges to like, oh, go to the grocery store, or you know what, go do this today. Or you don't know how that's going to play out, but stay open. Let me just check my notes. Let's see. It may feel uncomfortable, but do it anyway. Your future self is calling you, literally, like literally. So those are the 4 steps that you want the 4 shifts to start to make in order to attract more love and abundance, to rise to the wealth identity that you, not that only that you choose, but that literally is choosing you. Because if you're someone who knows where you are is not where you're meant to be, you're meant for more. You're kind of tired of maybe spinning your wheels, and you know that whatever you're constantly talking about now, it's meant to be made manifest. Those visions that come to you sporadically, those longings in your heart, in your gut, they're there for a reason. And so I'm here to wake you up and remind you, A, you're the one. B, choose it. Yeah, it really is quite that simple. Sometimes we make it more challenging than it needs to be, but really just choosing it. So if anyone has a question, please drop it in the chat, either in Instagram or YouTube. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. Let me see what else wants to come through. We talked about gratitude. Oh, abundance versus scarcity. I remember I told you earlier in this live stream, lack is an illusion. It is the ultimate illusion. Absolutely. Like it's the biggest lie and a fallacy. There is nothing against you. You can believe whatever you want to believe, and whatever you believe will become your truth. So if you want to believe that life is out to get you, that there's something that can hurt you or harm you, that your body's going to fail you, or germs are going to get you, like I had all that shit. It has taken me years to unpro or deprogram. And the only reason it took me years is because I didn't understand how to make identity shifts. When you shift an identity, those things start to fall away because, again, you elevate to a new identity, which gives you access consciously, because everything's energy and frequency. It gives you access to new thoughts, words, habits that you didn't previously have from lower states of consciousness. Okay. So hopefully that's making sense. But when you're there in scarcity, it's okay. You don't want to push against anything. You don't want to judge. As you're moving to your new identity and you're implementing these 4 steps, the key to the game, to playing this game, is to come into neutrality when you notice judgment is coming up. And I love this. Kellyanne, she was on this live stream. I don't know if she still is. Kellyanne Zelinsky. She mentioned this earlier in a coaching call that I was on of hers. And she said that judgment, she read this in a book. So Kellyanne said that she read it in a book called The Sophia Code. And in the book, it says, judgment is the frequency of poverty. Judgment is the frequency of poverty. Think about that. When we are in judgment, we are believing in separation, in lack. We're judging or perceiving something as different that's outside of us. When in spiritual truth, we're all one. We're all connected. We're all of the divine, just different, unique individuations or aspects of the one. So life will literally cause you to go on a journey. What did Jesus say? Judge not, lest ye be judged. That's pretty smart advice, right? Just if you're in judgment, it's okay. Feel the sensations that are alive for you. It's just something that's it's only coming up to the surface because it wants to be healed and loved. By the way, what's coming through, what I need to share with you is when you're going to the next level, this wealth identity that you're rising to, you want to be okay with whatever shows up, whatever's alive for you, and tell yourself, shift to a new belief that everything is showing up for my greatest good. So you're never off, you're never wrong, you're never effing it up. Like it's all getting you to the end result of what you want. You don't remember the 4th step was detach, decide, declare, devote, detach. Detach from how things have to look, but you get to stay steadfast on the identity that you're resting in. And then whatever shows up, like lack and scare, this happens a lot. You make a decision that you're moving in the direction of like, I'm rich AF, I'm a 6-figure, 7-figure business owner, CEO, professional, or I am a whatever. I'm in love with my beloved and we are traveling the world, and I am of whatever identity or role you want to play and act out. Ultimately, always practice the identity of being the one, the main, like Neo in the movie The Matrix. You are the one. Life is choosing you to stream through you. God, universe is animating you, whatever you believe in. So rest in the main foundational identity of the one. And then from there, who do you choose to be? Who do you choose to flirt? What characters do you choose to flirt with? Step into that identity. And as you do, be okay with contrast or opposition potentially showing up, because it's just going to show you what wants love, attention, and a new choice. Because do not let that rock you or deter you or sway you from holding the line of who you're choosing to be. The identity of who you're choosing to be gets to be true for you, because your belief creates reality. You can believe whatever you want. There is no difference between fear and faith. It actually is the belief in something unseen. Fear and faith both takes believing in something unseen. So choose. Do you want to believe in fear or do you want to believe in faith? You could pick. And ultimately, look at both. If fear is coming up, okay, let's flirt with it. Let's welcome it in. Let's love it. Let's acknowledge it. It's just a part of us that wants love. And then we can decide and choose as the one that that no longer gets to be true for us. That the fear might be showing us a new action plan to take, or something to take action on that could support us, or it could just be showing us like, hey, this might be out of alignment with how you're thinking about this. So we don't have to hate on our fear, but we can choose faith. That is a viable option. Just as it's a viable option for you to choose your wealth identity and rest and rise into that version of you. It's all available to you. The challenge is you have never been taught that these options are available, that you actually have different states of consciousness that you could choose, that there are certain identities that you can quite literally decide, I am this today, and I'm going to practice this until it becomes my natural state. And that's the key. You want to come into neutrality on any judgment you have about yourself or others. And you also want to practice a level of naturalness. Neville Goddard talks about this. He's a wonderful author from the 20s, 30s, 40s. But to the level that something feels natural, that's when it manifests. And so if you can just practice that identity of yours till it becomes natural, it's going to that will become your resting point, your natural state. All right, well, I don't see any questions. I feel complete for now. I loved that you guys got to join me. The recording will be up immediately. Both should be both on Instagram and YouTube. But feel free to drop comments or questions. I'll check them after as well. Hopefully that gives you the exact steps. Now you got to apply them, the 4 steps to help you shift into your wealth identity to attract more abundance and love, because your life gets to be magical. All right, till next time. I'll talk to you soon. Mwah.